in view of God's mercy, offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and prove what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Romans 12:2. Let us read it out loud together. Do not conform any longer. You may be seated in the presence of the Lord. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. The transformation of your mind is only because God is using you to test his will. What's on your mind reflects the will of God, that it is pleasing, that it is good, and that it is perfect. I want to preach for a little while today using as a subject, I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my mind. Look at the person beside you and tell them, I got a lot on my mind right now. Please don't bother me, please. Amen. Salman, I'm getting a little feedback if your balance is out. I'm losing my mind. Ladies and gentlemen, while Arizona Congresswoman Gifford is bound to a wheelchair this morning, her husband, Mark Kelly, is grieving while floating in space. And 8-year-old Christina Taylor Green is buried in a premature grave. All at the hands of a 22-year-old psychopath named Jared Lee Loudner. Loudner showed signs of degenerative behavior while a student at Pima County College. He wielded a knife in class, made random outbursts on campus, and many of his collegiate colleagues suspected that he was on a controlled substance because of his pronounced cynicism and irate disposition. The faculty and staff have been called under interrogation when they saw the signs of insanity, why it is that they never called the authorities. Students were afraid of him. Teachers didn't want him in the class, and yet they allowed him to remain enrolled. The height of his insanity was not that long ago, outside of a supermarket. His all-consuming responsibility and thoughts and notions around the Congresswoman came to a bursting end when he opened fire outside of a supermarket, killing a federal judge, maiming a U.S. Congresswoman, and facing 49 charges. The families of those who were impacted found themselves recently offended when the judge deemed Jared mentally incompetent and said that he did not have the intellectual faculties to face trial. After greater scrutiny, it was in fact deemed by court-appointed psychotherapists that Jared is in fact at an acute place of paranoid schizophrenia. He suffers from delusions and has manic hallucinations. Judge Burns, who is finding himself at the other end of the barrel of grave opposition, defended his actions by saying that he asked the therapist one critical question. And the one critical question that Judge Burns asked the two therapists who gave the evaluation of Jared Lee Lautner: can he understand what's going on in the trial? Can he understand what's going on in the trial? And brothers and sisters, the psychotherapist said they have absolutely no confidence that Jared has an understanding as to what's going on in the trial. I come today in defiant opposition, and I mean no disrespect to Judge Burns, but if the question of sanity is limited to my understanding of the trial I'm facing, I would dare suggest that most of us in the room would be found mentally incompetent. Because if you're honest, and I'm not sure how many of you can this early in the morning, but if you're honest, the trial that you're presently under is making you lose your mind. And if you were cross-examined, queried, and interrogated as to why it is you're going through what you're going through, with the some 47 charges of insanity that we can find against you just in the last 30 days, I wonder how many of us would find ourselves mentally competent to stand under the questioning as to why it is that we're going through what we're going through. Many of us only are holding on to sanity by the thread of our chin. But the reality is, if we were really questioned about why we're going through what we're going through, we would break down under the pressure, have loud outbursts, and would begin to attack the people around us simply because all of the mental stress and strain that we're carrying would provoke us to lash out. I don't know how it is that you're able to function, and how it is that you're able to maintain, and how it is that you're regulating your own psychosis, but there are a lot of us, the only reason why we are maintaining any modicum of sanity is simply because we haven't had to answer questions about our trial. But I feel like there's a small remnant in the room that says, Pastor, please don't even make me think about what I'm dealing with. Because if I have to begin to articulate and to discuss everything that I'm dealing with right now, it is no telling what I'm likely to do, how I'm going to respond, or what it's going to make me feel like. If I really got to stand under the questions and under the scrutiny, it might, if I'm honest, Pastor, cause me to question my relationship with God. Because the reality is, I really don't understand why I'm going through this trial. Off the top of my head, I can think of 3 other people who should be going through what I'm dealing with right now, because I feel like I'm an innocent bystander. I've been doing what God has told me to do. I'm trying to live a holistic and a spiritual and a devout Christian life. I try to be nice to people, and I can't control how they feel about me. I'm up early in the morning trying to give God the glory, and I had to deal with 2 and 3 things popping off just before I walked out of the house. I've been faithful, but I'm still under financial duress. My children act like they come from another planet. The spouse that God gave me is making me look at him or her in a different kind of light.